Paper 1, questions 4 and 2, The Great Gatsby. Please look up 3 alternative words or a definition for these words and write them in your vocab list. Veranda, which is a noun. Permeate, a verb. Innuendo, a noun. Prodigality, a noun. Gaudy, an adjective. A veranda is an enclosed wooden patio or porch. Permeate means to spread through something. Innuendo is a suggestive remark. Prodigality, cheerful wastage, usually of money. Gaudy, extravagantly bright, bordering on tasteless. Question 4. The objectives today are to critically evaluate a statement about the text, which is what happens in Paper 1, Question 4. We're going to try and understand the question and the possible range of questions that you might find. Know which method to use to answer it. Write part of an answer and look at a model answer and discuss its effectiveness. The range of questions could include those such as, focus this part of your answer from the line, whatever it is, to the end of the extract. A student said, I like the way the writer develops our sympathy for the character. To what extent do you agree? In your response, you should write about your impression of, whatever it is, evaluate how the writer develops these impressions, and support your opinions with quotations from the text. 20 marks. Other things that you could be asked to do, for example, from past papers or sample papers include, the writer makes us feel just as confused as the people in the scene, or the character is right to panic, or the character's reaction is extreme. Today we're going to be talking about bringing the characters to life and making it feel as if you're there, and you have to say whether you agree and why. How will you write your answer? There's one method, but it has different ways of describing it, so you could use the PETA or petal method or the Peter method. They end up being both the same. What you need to do is say what the writer is saying in different words from the words that the writer uses. Use evidence or a quotation. Name the technique and analyse what does the writer imply beyond what is on the page. That is the part of the answer that will really get you over the threshold for passing the exam, your analysis or your description of the effect on the reader. That's the important bit. That's why I've put it in boxes on this page. Using the petal structure, the question is 20 marks and you get 1 mark for each statement that you make up to certain quality. So in order to answer this question in full, you should write 4 or 5 paragraphs. So pick out 4 or 5 quotes and analyse those. What's the writer saying? What techniques do they use? And what are they implying beyond what's on the page? If you can't manage 4 or 5 paragraphs, then please do 3 to the best of your embillity. In the class, we'll see a clip of the party scene from The Great Gatsby. We can't actually embed that in a video, which is on YouTube because of copyright, but you can easily find it by putting into YouTube The Great Gatsby party scene. Imagine you're at an amazing party in 1920s New York. What would you hear, see, feel physically and emotionally? Question 4. This is the question. Question 4. Focus this part of your answer on the second part of the source from line 23 to the end. A student, having read this section of the text, said, the writer brings the parties to life for the reader. It's as if you're there. To what extent do you agree? In your response, you could write about your own impressions of the parties, evaluate how the writer has created these impressions, and support your opinions with references to the text. 20 marks.
By 7 o'clock, the orchestra has arrived. No thin 5-piece affair, but a whole pitful of oboes and trombones and saxophones and viols and cornets and piccolos and low and high drums. The last swimmers have come in from the beach now and are dressing upstairs. The cars from New York are parked 5 deep on the drive, and already the halls and salons and verandas are gaudy with primary colours and hair shorn in strange new ways and shawls beyond the dreams of Castile. The bar is in full swing and floating rounds of cocktails permeate the garden outside, until the air is alive with chatter and laughter and casual innuendo, and introductions forgotten on the spot, and enthusiastic meetings between women who never knew each other's names.
You'll notice that I have put shapes around some important quotations to help you answer this question. You can choose from those or others if you wish.
The lights grow brighter as the earth lurches away from the sun, and now the orchestra is playing yellow cocktail music, and the opera of voices pitches a key higher. Laughter is easier minute by minute, spilled with prodigality, tipped out at a cheerful word. The groups change more swiftly, swell with new arrivals, dissolve and form in the same breath. Already there are wanderers, confident girls who weave here and there among the stouter and more stable, become for a sharp, joyous moment the centre of the group, and then, excited with triumph, glide on through the sea change of faces and voices and colour under the constantly changing light. Suddenly one of the gypsies in trembling opal seizes a cocktail out of the air, dumps it down for courage, and moving her hands like Frisco, dances out alone on the canvas platform. A momentary hush. The orchestra leader varies his rhythm obligingly for her, and there is a burst of chatter as the erroneous news goes around that she is Gilda Gray's understudy from the Follies. The party has begun.
Here is the question again, and some important terminology to help you answer it. Instead of saying the writer says, you could say the writer conveys, suggests, emphasises, demonstrates, illustrates, makes it clear, makes it apparent, allows the reader or audience to understand, etc. An example sentence might be, for example, the writer's effective use of the adjective gaudy successfully demonstrates how. What does bringing the parties to life mean? Here are my thoughts. He uses the present tense, now, makes it very immediate. There's chaotic socialising, just like real life. He uses the metaphor gypsies to describe girls who are moving around the room. The music, there are sounds and instruments, a long list of instruments. Sentence structures, they're complex for description and he uses lists. Detail upon detail, the use of and to show the extravagance of all the musical instruments, and repetition. Colour, he talks about the shawls that are different colours, and he describes what you can sense with all your senses. Remember the petal or Peter structure? What the petal and Peter structure do is actually say what the writer is saying, how they're doing it, so a quotation and the technique that they're using, and why, which is the way that you get to pass your exam, is by doing a really good section on the analysis or the effect on the reader. That's the bit that's going to help you pass.
Firstly, the writer uses the present tense to create a sense of immediacy in his description of the evening party at his neighbour's. In comparison to the 3 earlier paragraphs, he states the orchestra has arrived and confident girls who weave here and there. This draws the reader into the web of activity and social chit-chat. The verbs in the present tense, such as weave and has, mean that the action is going on now and makes the reader feel involved.
The most important part of this answer is to show your examiner that you understand. That you show in your analysis, and I've put the analysis of each of the paragraphs, starting with this one, in bold. The colour coding is as follows. Pink shows the technique. Blue shows the point that the writer is making. Underline shows the quotation, and bold shows the analysis.
The writer also describes the chaotic socialising and excited mood of the party, which would be part of any real-life social gathering. The quote, "The air is alive with chatter and laughter," shows that everyone is frantically socialising, and this is reiterated by enthusiastic meetings between women who never knew each other's names. These adjectives, alive and enthusiastic, in the semantic field of socialising, show that the atmosphere is so lively that they're able to engage with total strangers, and we feel the sense of urgency and excitement that they feel.
Don't forget that the air is alive with chatter and laughter is also a metaphor, so don't forget to mention it.
Additionally, the topic of music, another aspect of an exciting party, is described in detail. This is described using repetition of and to build the richness and extravagance of all the instruments that will be playing. A whole pitful of oboes and trombones and saxophones and viols. These are used to play yellow cocktail music, which, the writer implies, colours the already exciting atmosphere yellow, a bright and cheerful colour, making visual imagery of light and happiness. Finally, the sentences, apart from the last one, add layer upon layer of crafted detail about all the topics addressed. Take one example. The building excited preparation of the guests in the upstairs rooms is shown by the quotation, "The halls and salons and verandas are gaudy, with primary colours and hair shorn in strange new ways and shawls beyond the dreams." The repetition of types of room and aspects of the guest's appearance build the detail and form lively imagery which we as other social beings can relate to in our own preparations for parties we have attended. In total, the attention to detail of many aspects of the party preparation and its abundance of features help the reader to experience the parties as though they were there and able to sense them themselves.
It's your turn to write now. Question 2. Question 2. Look at the first 3 paragraphs down to line 22. How does the writer use language here to describe the extravagance of the parties? You could include the writer's choice of words and phrases, language features and techniques, and sentence forms. 8 marks. Once again, I've provided a list of different ways of saying the writer says, and here we have a list of vocabulary that you can use to answer this question. Spendthrift, profligate, unthrifty, thriftless, improvident, wasteful, free spending, prodigal, squandering, lavish, immoderate, and excessive. They're not all in the text, but they are words that relate to what's going on. And I've got a little example in the bottom right hand corner of a sentence you could use to answer the question. The writer's effective use of the noun champagne shows that. The question is 8 marks, so you should take 2 quotes and analyse those. What does extravagance mean? And what vocabulary and quotations can you pick out of the text in those first 3 paragraphs to show this? Extravagance means spending without worry.
Music from my neighbour's house through the summer nights. In his blue gardens, men and girls came and went like moths among the whisperings and the champagne and the stars. At high tide in the afternoon, I watched his guests diving from the tower of his raft or taking the sun on the hot sand of his beach, while his 2 motorboats slit the waters of the Sound, drawing aquaplanes over cataracts of foam. On weekends, his Rolls Royce became an omnibus, bearing parties to and from the city between 9 in the morning and long past midnight, while his station wagon scampered like a brisk yellow bug to meet all trains. And on Mondays, 8 servants, including an extra gardener, toiled all day with mops and scrubbing brushes and hammers and garden shears, repairing the ravages of the night before. Every Friday, 5 crates of oranges and lemons arrived from a fruiterer in New York. Every Monday, these same oranges and lemons left his back door in a pyramid of pulpless halves. There was a machine in the kitchen which could extract the juice of 200 oranges in half an hour, if a little button was pressed 200 times by a butler's thumb.
As you can see, I have put shapes around some of the relevant quotes that will help you answer the question.
At least once a fortnight, a corps of caterers came down with several hundred feet of canvas and enough coloured lights to make a Christmas tree of Gatsby's enormous garden. On buffet tables garnished with glistening hors d'oeuvre, spiced baked hams crowded against salads of harlequin designs, and pastry pigs and turkeys bewitched to a dark gold. In the main hall, a bar with a real brass rail was set up and stocked with gins and liquors and with cordials so long forgotten that most of his female guests were too young to know one from another.
Did you spot the words that you could use to answer this question? Firstly, Gatsby's extravagance is shown in several ways, including his many forms of transport, his staff, and the food he provides for his guests. Gatsby is described as owning the multiple nouns 2 motorboats, a Rolls-Royce, and a station wagon, which are used by his guests. This shows that he spends his money on his guests, which is not necessary for survival, but is a choice he's made as a way to spend his money. The 2 boats for his guests show his profligacy, as even a family only needs 1 boat and not a station wagon. He could be thought of as squandering money. Additionally, Gatsby spends money on staff to cater, repair and garden before and after his parties. Again, this shows that he's not worried about the expense of providing the highest quality goods and services to his guests. This is clear from the statement 200 times by a butler's thumb. This statistic shows his lavish attitude. It's your turn to write now.